Did you know that video games are responsible for all the mass shootings?
I've heard you say it.
Well, here's the proof. It's all somehow being reported on Fox News and then finally parroted by yours truly, and I don't mean O.J. Simpson.
Should, and you want to see from these individuals what they wrote in others, but I mean, this may be a place that we
This
could
is a
find this ahead of
Republican
time.
House
There may be
Minority
a
Leader.
place of what's being written can be changed, could be an indication that an individual needs help in others that we can stop. But the idea of these video games to dehumanize individuals, to have a game of shooting individuals and others, I've always felt that is a problem for future generations.
I've always felt that as unqualified. I've always felt that as someone who's never played video games, held a controller, or done research with it at all.
I've always felt like he's so ahead of his time.
Mm-hmm. I've always had an intuition that instead of gun control,
we need video game
I've never thought to
control.
myself, how are these young kids getting possession of assault rifles and tons of ammo and bump stocks and huge magazines? I've always thought to myself, no, it's the violent video games. This guy has never fucking played a video game in his life. Ever. Look how clueless this fucking crusty old bitch is.
We've watched from studies shown before of what it does to individuals. When you look at these photos of how it took place, you can see the actions within video games.
Bro, it's just violence.
What?
It's violence.
And what study is even talking? The opposite is true. Every time they've studied this, they find no connection between being violent and video games.
Just
So
look at the stats. You don't need any any study. It's all right there in front of us.
The best counter I've ever seen. I mean,
yeah,
this chart right here. Video games per person that they spend to violent gun deaths. South Korea, China, even more than the United States. Almost no gun deaths. Clearly, just look. USA is the total outlier here. Japan, Italy, Spain, France, Germany, Canada, United States, or United Kingdoms, all huge consumers of video games. Does anyone else have gun deaths? Do you know what it is likely linked to? The availability of guns.
Mm-hmm. Well, this shows there's no correlation at all.
No correlation. None. But if you look at the scene of the violence, you could clearly tell that it's something out of a video game. People never died before video games were around, and World War II was a war of it was a different time. Some people say that Hitler went back in time and played video games, and that was the cause for World War II. Fuck this guy. So anyway, here's douche number one.
But what I'd like to do is make sure just get all the facts where there are indications. And there's times before that we have found this, and there's times before that we've proven we could come together. Just in the last Congress, when we found that there was a shooting in Texas, that an individual should not have been able to have that weapon because he was dishonorably discharged, because there was abuse inside that he did within his own family. But we found that the NIC, the National Instant Criminal Background Check, we came together to make sure that it was our own military that was not putting that forward, giving the information at the time, that could have been stopped, that weapon would have not.
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
So
what he's saying is
basically
what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to figure out what I can say to make it sound like I care and I want to do anything.
Yeah.
But in a week, I want to ensure that everyone will forget about this and nothing happens. Because, frankly speaking, we all receive lots of millions of dollars of money from the NRA. And, well, we'd be really fucked if that ever stopped coming in. Probably not reelected, so the cost of a couple dead children and, well, it's really probably video games, if anything. Here, there's more. Fox News, once again, Ted Williams. Let's have a look here at old Teddy boy.
I wonder if these guys who very often are raised on a diet of violent video games,
if they eat it.
If they actually start pulling the trigger of a real weapon and they see real death and they find that it's not as satisfying as maybe it was when they're playing it on a television screen.
What are you even... Listen to you. All these geniuses have got these theories. They don't even play video games.
They just wander.
He goes, it's not as satisfying, so why would they go kill people? His theory doesn't even make sense.
Have you ever encountered that, and could that be the reason that this guy just finally stopped?
Well, I've encountered video game players and their activity, but it's rare that individuals act out like this that are video gamers. I think it's a little too early to speculate at this stage about the motive, but what we do...
This guy's like, well...
Not really.
Yeah. Here's another one from, guess where? Fox News. All right. It's almost like they've got an agenda.
I were a betting man, I'd say that he probably logs 6 to 8 hours a day playing one of those,
6 to 8? Try 10 to 12, bitch.
Video games where you're doing
That's a real
nothing but dehumanizing people by blowing their heads out, blowing their heads off, one after another after another.
Because it does seem to desensitize some of these killers to...
I love how scientific they are. Well, it does seem...
Yeah.
Isn't this the same guy that was asking the other dude?
I don't know.
Everybody on Fox News looks the same. I can't tell the difference.
Right.
Nature of actually what happens when you pull a trigger and the gun is aimed at another human being.
Yeah,
What I'm
that is
looking at.
That is the talking point.
I agree. It's just if you
You know
think
these
about
guys.
it,
You guys know that in the morning, all these Fox News anchors get a memo that says, "Talk about pointing guns at people in real life is desensitized from playing violent video games." They keep repeating the same lines, dude. I'm telling you.
he's 21 years old. For the last 25 years, we have been, the parenting method in this country has been very soft. And there haven't been a lot of
we need to start hitting our kids.
really tough parenting methods that have been popular.
We need to start shooting our kids.
Shooting our kids.
We need to start threatening them at gunpoint.
Young people to not have the capacity
Parents need guns.
to really,
Right. You know how to prevent these shootings?
to really work
Shoot
through
Parents with
tough
guns.
things that
Yeah.
happen in your life.
Shoot
Not
the
that that is
shooter.
what
They
causes
go.
people
They've
to
been
become
talking about how arming teachers. They want to do that.
Yeah.
We need to start arming Walmart employees. Because how are we going to prevent that? Well, all Walmart managers get to carry around a handgun now. Love it.
Why stop there? Just everybody.
That,
Well, that is the dream of the NRA.
Actively engaging in something that causes you to dehumanize people for hours and hours
Back to the
on
video
end
game.
every day. It really
Are you an expert, lady? Do you have some qualifications to be talking about
I think
this?
it's just a
Former
bad
FBI
combination,
agent,
and it's
so.
something to be looked at, and it's something that we've seen several times
Former.
in these active shooters.
Yeah, she got
She's
fired
not,
from the
she-
FBI.
she's not that old to have been retired from the FBI. You know what I mean? She's a little young to be retired from the FBI.
Local authorities obviously are going to be overwhelmed there.
She's like, and what division were you in the FBI?
Well, I can't talk about it.
She's like, she was like, agriculture. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Perfect. Well, let's see. There's another one here. If you'll believe that. Oh, this is a clip of Trump. Let's see. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas also blaming video games. On what network is this? How can it be that they're all happening on the same network? Like they had a memo and a talking point to try to confuse the topic.
Evil act, and let's condemn it for what it is.
Why is it
Evil.
so dark?
Evil. And I say, how long are we going to let, for example, and ignore at the federal level particularly,
Yes.
where they can
Say
do
it.
something about the video game
Yes!
industry? You know, in this manifesto that we believe is from the
guy
shooter,
figured it out.
this manifesto, he talks about living out his super soldier fantasy.
Someone
on
debunked this,
Call
by
of
the
Duty.
way. That in his
We know
manifesto, he
that,
didn't
the video
reference
game
video
industry is
games
bigger
or
than the
super
movie
soldier.
industry.
Or,
and the
well,
music
it
industry
does, but it is
combined.
not what
And
it
there have been
means, right,
studies that say
Dan?
it impacts people, and studies that says it does not. But I look at the common denominators as
Hello?
a 67-year-old
Oh, yeah,
father
well,
and grandfather myself. What's
His manifesto said something to the effect of, remember, it is not cowardly to pick low-hanging fruit, aka don't attack heavily guarded areas to fulfill your super soldier COD fantasy. So he's basically encouraging other people to, like, not try and act out your video game fantasy. Rather, you should go shoot up a Walmart. Cool guy. Really, really great advice there.
So you're saying I attack low security targets?
Yeah. He's essentially saying the exact opposite of what the guy
of what
in the
you were
video was
doing in the
saying.
game.
Yeah, he wasn't trying. He's saying don't try and act out your super soldier fantasy. It's literally the opposite of what he just said in that clip. So there you go.
Changed in this country.
By the way, you know how we used to be like, don't even name the shooter because we don't want to give him any notoriety? There's so many of them now, you're no one special anymore. Go shoot up a fucking Walmart. Nobody even gives a shit about you. I didn't even heard the guy's name once because there's so many of you pathetic losers.
Well, now the new annoying thing is that they called their little write-up a manifesto.
Yeah, well, guess what? It's just a bunch of bullshit nobody fucking cares about, and nobody even remembers your name because there's thousands of you idiots now. It used to be we'd be like, oh, this was his name, and this was. It's like, dude,
you're not that special.
You're not that special anymore. You fucking loser ass bitch. You can go sit at the loser table in hell. You know what I mean? There's like a lunch table in hell for all these loser-ass shooters. I bet you at the loser table in hell, they're all playing Magic the Gathering, but they're out of like trap cards. I don't know anything about Magic. Sorry to people who play Magic.
That's Yu-Gi-Oh?
There's no trap cards in Magic? God. Really? There isn't?
Maybe there is. I don't know. I haven't played Magic since I was a kid. So.
Well, anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt this guy's manifesto. This guy's got a little manifesto of himself.
We've always had guns. We've always had evil. But what's changed where we see this rash of shooting?
Bro, are you so fucking dumb? Do you understand that every kid plays video games? You could say that about anything. Oh, these kids today are ditching school. The common denominator, video games. What percentage of kids are playing video games around that age? 100% of all kids are playing video games. Man, you really are dumb as it gets.
Even if you want to make the argument that it's like, 0.1% of people that play this are like desensitized by it. I mean, you can make that argument about so many things. I mean, we should outlaw alcohol because people get violent when they drink alcohol. A tiny sliver of people do. So let's just ban alcohol.
Well, what about movies?
Yeah, what about violent movies?
Well, that's what it used to be.
So violent,
nobody talks about that anymore.
Wasn't it also like they used to talk about music like that?
Right.
Yeah,
certain
heavy
genres.
metal.
Yeah,
Can you imagine
make you want to murder people?
Yeah, but again, ignoring the fact that all kids are listening to fucking the same music, dude. I mean, all you have to see is this. This is the start and stop of this theory.
Yeah,
that's it, dude. If video games made people violent, you would not see this. You would see a linear correlation. I mean, dude, it's not rocket science. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson could do a little write-up about this, and well, you see, at 100,000 people, I don't know what this means. Oh, 1 per 100,000? Yeah, that's nothing. Why are we even worried about this?
And I see a video game industry that teaches young people to kill. In his manifesto, he said this is not a Republican or Democrat thing because he was concerned about robots and environment and immigrants. Obviously, a hate crime, I think, in my view, against immigrants from this young man. Just my view.
Bold.
We haven't had an official report on that. And I don't mean to talk on, but my heart is so heavy this morning because I think, where are we as a country?
Right.
I look at social media. The violence of just bullying people on social media every day, and we turn our head and we allow it. I look at on a Sunday morning when most of your viewers right now, half of the country are getting ready to go to church, and yet tomorrow we won't let our kids even pray in our schools. We have to look at ourselves.
This is a really good point he's making here.
What did you say?
His heart is heavy because we're all going to church on Sunday, yet we won't even let our kids pray in our schools. And it's God. God has noticed this and sent these shooters to punish us. That's real fucking crazy, dude. And then finally, if it couldn't get any better, the president himself, after watching Fox News all day, has decided he knows why these shootings are taking place.
We must seek real bipartisan solutions. We have to do that in a bipartisan manner that will truly make America safer and better for all. First, we must do a better job of identifying and acting on early warning signs. I am directing the Department of Justice to work in partisan partnership with local, state, and federal agencies as well as social media companies to develop tools that can detect mass shooters before they strike.
Dude, that
As
will
an
never
example,
happen.
the monster in the Parkland High School in Florida had many red flags against him, and yet nobody
Too many
took
people in this
decisive
country to
action.
monitor.
Nobody did
What
anything.
can you do?
Why not?
You've got to prevent it
Second,
before.
we must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that
That's
are
number 2,
now
dude.
commonplace. It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence. We must stop or substantially reduce this, and it has to begin immediately. Cultural change is hard, but each of
So that was number 2 on his list, is violent video games. So I think I don't see
a
these.
little bit of a problem.
Yeah, these shootings are going to keep happening.